In the United States, we're raised on stories of heroes who come home to parades, with medals pinned to their chests and their names etched into history. We expect greatness to demand recognition. But sometimes the greatest acts of courage end not in applause but in silence. This is the story of a soldier who was offered fame and chose to walk away. His name was Daniel Carter. To the public, that name would never mean much. No documentaries were made about him. No streets were named in his honor. Yet among the small circle of men who served beside him, Daniel was something else entirely. Daniel grew up in a quiet Ohio town where American flags hung year-round and military service was spoken of with reverence. His grandfather fought in World War II. His father served in Vietnam. For Daniel, joining the army wasn't about glory, it was about duty. After high school, he enlisted without ceremony, hugged his mother, shook his father's hand, and left town in a beat-up pickup truck. Years later, in a desert halfway across the world, Daniel found himself leading a small unit on a routine patrol. The mission wasn't supposed to be dangerous. Intelligence reports showed low enemy activity. But war has a way of rewriting plans without warning. As the convoy moved through a narrow pass, the first explosion tore the silence apart. The lead vehicle was hit, flames rising instantly. Gunfire erupted from the hills on both sides. Chaos broke out, radios screamed, dust filled the air. In seconds, the patrol was pinned down. Daniel didn't freeze. While others scrambled for cover, he ran straight toward the burning vehicle. Inside were two soldiers, one unconscious, the other trapped. Bullets cracked against the metal around him, but Daniel didn't slow down. He dragged one man out, then went back for the second. When he finally collapsed behind cover, wounded and bleeding, both soldiers were alive. The fight lasted nearly an hour, reinforcements arrived, and the enemy retreated. When the dust settled, the patrol counted its losses. Miraculously, no one had died. Back at base, word spread fast. Officers wrote reports. Witness statements piled up. Daniel's actions, they said, were well above and beyond the call of duty. There was talk of a high-level commendation, maybe more, maybe even national attention. Daniel listened quietly as his commanding officer explained what would come next: interviews, ceremonies, a medal that would put him in front of cameras and microphones. His family would be flown out. His face would appear in newspapers. That night, Daniel sat alone outside his barracks, staring at the desert sky. He replayed the day in his mind, not as a heroic story, but as moments of fear, noise, and instinct. He remembered the screams, the smell of burning metal, the way his hands shook afterward. The next morning, he made a decision that stunned everyone. Daniel formally requested that his recognition be downgraded. No major ceremony, no press, no interviews. He insisted that the report emphasize the entire unit, not just him. When asked why, his answer was simple. I didn't do anything special. I just didn't want to leave my guys. The officers pushed back. They explained what this kind of recognition could mean for his career, for public morale, for the Army's image. Daniel listened respectfully, then repeated his request. In the end, they compromised. He received a modest commendation and a small, on-base ceremony. No cameras, no headlines. Just a handshake, a certificate, and a quiet nod from the men who knew the truth. After his service ended, Daniel returned home. No parade greeted him. He enrolled in community college using the GI Bill. Later, he became a high school history teacher. He married, raised 2 kids, and volunteered at the local Veterans Center, helping others navigate life after war. Most people never knew what he had done. Sometimes, students would ask him if he'd ever been scared in the Army. He would smile slightly and say, every day. If pressed about medals or battles, he would change the subject, redirecting attention to the people who didn't come home. Years later, one of the soldiers he saved tracked him down. He stood at Daniel's classroom door after school, older, heavier, alive, because Daniel had run into fire. They hugged without words. Only then did Daniel's students overhear fragments of the truth. Even then, he asked that nothing be written, nothing shared online. Some things aren't meant for the spotlight, he said. In a culture obsessed with recognition, Daniel Carter chose anonymity. Not because he lacked pride, but because he understood something deeper. Fame fades, headlines move on, but doing the right thing for the right reason needs no audience. The soldier who walked away from fame did so because, to him, heroism was never about being seen. It was about not walking away when it mattered most. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider sharing it and subscribing for more content that honors the quiet heroes among us.